minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the place we're getting out overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Football Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. 4227, and you could also get at me on Instagram where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Armando Salguero, Outkick senior NFL writer, is going to stop by 40 minutes from now, and then coming up at 5:20 p.m. Eastern time today, 2:20 p.m. Pacific, we will be joined by Ariel Epstein, who does a great job as Fanatics Betting Analyst. She will be my opponent this week for NFL picks, and I was off to a horrific start last week. You can't do worse, so I'll see if I will find a way out of the basement. We start. Today is just a show that you never want to do. Like, let's just be real. I know we all know the risks of playing football. We all know the nasty injury, concussion part of the game. But last night, right, it just changes on one play where if Tua Tagovailoa didn't suffer his fourth NFL concussion, we would have been sitting here today breaking down how the Buffalo Bills dominated the Miami Dolphins, and not only how the Buffalo Bills dominated the Miami Dolphins, but how Tua Tagovailoa did not play well in the game. Like, I was ready to send out an instant reaction video because I was in, I think, the minority of people that said the Dolphins shouldn't pay Tua this past offseason. And because of his injury past, and because of the fact that he's only made it through one season and also had that one season play at a good or a high level, I would have wanted to see Tua prove it for one more season. But I'm actually happy now, knowing how it played out, that the Dolphins elected to pay and quickly pay Tua Tagovailoa, because at least he already got some of his money. Because what we saw happen last night on that fourth down conversion, it just shows you, even when you think Tua is starting to figure out the NFL and he's moving away from getting concussed, how quickly it could pop back up once again. Because we all know what happened in 2022. In 2022, I know they listed as him suffering 2 concussions. He suffered 3 concussions. The fact that the NFL tries to tell us that game against the Buffalo Bills was a back injury, it was jackassery at the time, and it's still a bunch of hogwash to this day. But last year, that was a major storyline going into the season. It was, will Tua Tagovailoa be able to get through the season healthy? And last year, he was able to get through a season healthy. And I do a weekly hit on Hockman and Crowder on 560 WQAM. And I brought it back up in the offseason in one of the segments that I do with them. And I said, guys, like, it's still a question. I know Dolphins fans don't want to hear this, but Tua now has to show you that he could replicate what he did a year ago. Because what he did a year ago, in my opinion, and I know you can't predict injuries and you can't predict concussions, but in all likelihood, unfortunately, was an anomaly. But when you see the way that it played out last night, and Tua the person, like, we love. I was a huge fan of Tua Tagovailoa at Alabama. When I did 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time, he joined me at least 2 times. You know, on the air, on the show, when he was at Alabama, and he was the all-that quarterback, like the thing in college football. And we know he suffered, right, a hip injury at Alabama, shoulder injuries, like really nasty injuries. But it's one thing when you, let's say, tear an ACL, or you have an Achilles injury, or, you know, you have a hip dislocation. Those things you could recover from, right? And you could bounce back the next year. But when we're talking about not only one concussion, and one concussion could knock out someone's career, but 3 in one season that occurred in 2022, and then he gets through a year where there's no documented concussion, and then 2 weeks into the season, he gets another concussion. I don't care if you're the biggest Dolphin fan in the world or not. I don't care if you actually care for the players or not. But if you are a decent human being, if you have a heart, you watch that game last night and your heart breaks. And you just sit there and you go, oh no, like, here we go again. And this is the dreadful part of the game. And I get it. Mike McDaniel could lecture us today, and I don't think he did it in a condescending way, to be fair. And I think he did it from the right place and the right spot. So let me take that back in terms of the lecturing. But Mike McDaniel could get out in front of the media today and say, guys, it's not right to talk about the future of Tua Tagovailoa. No one should be telling Tua how to decide his future. So this is all I'll say. If I was making the decision, and I'm fully cognizant I am not Tua Tagovailoa, but if I was making the decision, I got paid, figure out the legality of the contract and all that stuff, and I would retire. You have made more than enough money where you could provide for your family for the rest of your life, and also your children's life and your children's children's life. That's just the fact of the situation if you manage your money the right way. And also, Tua has put in so much work. Tua was at one point such a great player, and he's a great competitor. And right, there's so much diligent work that goes in to put yourself in a position to be a top 5 draft pick, to get the deal that Tua Tagovailoa got this offseason. But what does that work and putting in that work mean if you can't enjoy life after football? Because this is the scary part of it. This is the reality. I'm not a doctor, but I've talked to enough NFL players throughout the years. And I care about the mental health of these NFL players. And unfortunately, the physical injuries that they suffer in this game impacts their health mentally and physically moving forward. And when you've suffered 4 concussions already that we know of in your young NFL career, I don't know how I could sit here today and say Tua Tagovailoa has to return to the football field. And I'll just tell you from a viewer standpoint, if he does return to the football field, and it wouldn't shock me if he does, because that's how dedicated to football Tua Tagovailoa is and how much he loves the sport. But as a viewer, after what we've already gone through in 2022 and the pain that we saw and the frightening images that we saw Tua Tagovailoa go through in 2022, and then you have now another concussion in 2024, every single time I'm watching Tua, I'll be thinking about one thing, and that will be the past and what has happened in the past. And you will be sitting there and you will not be focusing, does he hit Tyreek Hill for a big play? Does he hit Jalen Waddle for a big play? Does he get the ball to Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane? Do the Dolphins win the big game or not? You're not going to be thinking about that. You're going to be thinking about, I just hope this guy doesn't get hurt again. I just hope he doesn't get concussed again. Because you start to think about life for Tua after football. And you hope he gets to enjoy life after football. And you hope he gets to enjoy everything he worked so diligently to do on a football field. And all the benefits that come from it, you hope that he gets to live a long life in a healthy state. But it's only going to get worse. Like, he plays again, no one could sit there and guarantee you that Tua Tagovailoa isn't going to get another concussion. You can't. And you know what's scary about last night? It wasn't even this vicious, high-impact type of collision. That was a normal football play that happened last night. And you once again saw the fencing position, right, with the hands of Tua Tagovailoa, and it was a flashback to that Thursday night football game where we all saw what we saw, and it was horrifying. So I hope Tua doesn't play again. I really hope he doesn't play again. And it's his decision. It's his family decision. They make that decision, and we'll see what it is. But I've unfortunately seen this too many times where if you ask me, Zach, do you think that was the last time we've seen Tua Tagovailoa on a football field? I will reiterate what I said once again. I hope it is. But do I think it is? I don't. I don't think that's the last time we see Tua. Because most of the time, 9.9 times out of 10, when you leave it up to the player, and if the player gets cleared, whether that's in 3 weeks, whether that's in 2 months, or if it's for next season, the player's going to want to play. Because Tua's grown up his entire life with football as the focus. But now, and we know Tua is a family man, but now it's time for family to step in and hopefully persuade Tua to no longer play football. But I can't sit here and say that last night when I was watching that, even though I hope it's the last time, unfortunately you have to hope this way, that was the last time we see Tua Tagovailoa on the field. If you said to me right now, Zach, do you think that's actually the last time we see him on the field? I would probably say it's not. And you look at it now moving forward, because Tua is held to a different standard because of the way that we've seen these concussions suffer publicly in big games, in primetime games, and the way that we've seen these instances occur. Like if any other quarterback in the NFL suffered a concussion, like let's say it was Josh Allen last night. In all likelihood, Josh Allen's out for the following week and then he returns after that. But for Tua, because of what we see in the past and how public this discourse has been, you know, once you got past last night, wow, it happened again, you immediately look at the schedule and see, okay, if there is a way for him to get back on the field, what game is it going to be? And their bye week, and it feels weird to have this conversation, but we'll have it. Their bye week is week 6. So they play Seattle next Sunday. Then they're Tennessee Monday night. It's a home game for the Dolphins. And then they're at New England on October 6th. I would be shocked going into that bye week of week 6 if we see Tua before that bye week. If he does want to play, maybe he gets cleared and maybe it's October 20th. But I can't sit here and say that he's definitely coming back this year. I can't. And it would probably be best for him if he doesn't come back this year. But I'm not a doctor. I'm not the medical expert. And also, I am not Tua Tagovailoa. And that's the thing. Tua will ultimately make this decision. And give him his time, give him his space, and we'll see what that decision is. But last night, here's a scary thing, right? They come back from commercial break. And I'm just trying to relate to, the viewer. You see him come back from the commercial break, and you're like, oh, thank God he's up and he's walking off, right? But just because you're walking off, he may not even know where he is. And it was such a powerful image last night when Mike McDaniel kissed him on his head, because it shows how serious this is and how scary it is. Because even though he got through healthy as we know it last year, that was on everyone's mind. It was on everyone's mind through all of last season. And then in week 2, after a great week 1 comeback, boom, concussion in the third quarter. And it's just where we are right back in 2022. So here's the question that I'll ask today. And you could chime in 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. It's also up on Twitter X at Zach Gelb, also at INF Sportsnet is where you can find it too. After suffering another concussion, do you want to see Tua Tagovailoa play again in the NFL? And my answer is no. And I think he should retire. 85% agree with me. 15% say, yes, I want to see him play again. Let him play again. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. Let's start things off with our buddy Adam in Toronto. First up on the Zach Gelb Show. Adam, what's shaking?
Zach, man, listen, let's go to the unimportant thing first. Bills got that's a whole team win, man. That's unimportant. But what really matters, I'm sick of watching this, Zach. It's gut-wrenching. I'm with you. It's ultimately up to Tua. It's his decision. Nobody can tell him. But if I'm a family member, if I'm his spouse, I'm not letting him go back out there. I'm watching this as a Bills fan. I could not imagine being his family member and watching him go out and do this. And it's crazy because now it's happening. And that's the thing with concussions, Zach, is that once you get one, it happens again and again and again. It happens easier each and every time. That wasn't even a hard hit he took. I would say he hit Damar Hamlin harder with his own head, but just the way he fell and then collapsed, it's just I can't get the image out of my head, man. And
Adam, you know what's crazy?
Just take the money, man. Yeah. Take the money and move away, and just you're financially secure forever, Zach.
Yeah, and also people are going to say, oh, he should have slid or something like it was 4th down. He was going for the first down. If he slid, he may not get the first down. So then people would have been ripping him for that. And it's also it was crazy when I watched the replay because I didn't realize this at first. It was very dreary and a very ominous feel knowing what happened to Damar Hamlin. And that it was just crazy enough that play, Damar Hamlin was the defensive player on the field. That was just an ominous, weird feel to me when I was watching it back last night.
It's just crazy. That's what I thought. The first thing I thought, too, was that's crazy how Damar Hamlin was on the other end of that. But listen, I know I love to bash Tua, and it's all in a football fan way. I know he's a genuinely good person, and I just hope that, think about all we've learned in the last 10 years about concussions, Zach. What's going to happen in 40 years? I don't want to be turning on the TV in 40, 50 years, and all of a sudden Tua's in a chair, and he can't move or something because he suffers another one of these. It's just take your money, man, and you know what? Everyone should understand. If you don't understand that, then you're not human. So,
Adam, appreciate the phone call. Thanks so much. And I know Adam, right? He's called the show for years. He's a huge Bills fan. There's one thing when we get in the fun of this of oh, you're a Bills fan. The Bills own the Dolphins. bash Tua for the poor performances up against the Bills. But once you see with what happened in the past occur once again last night, I get it. Adam's a fired up Bills fan, right? He's jacked up his team won. But then you think about the person. And, hey, I know this doing sports talk radio. We will go after people, right? You will criticize people. You will have opinions. You'll be loud. You'll be brash. It's what we do. But then when you see someone's health get impacted, it doesn't matter what you said in the past. You're focused on that person's health. And last night watching it, it was a very, very scary scene because it wasn't even that bad of a hit. And all it does is makes the flashbacks occur from 2022. And when I watched that, my immediate reaction last night was, I don't want to see Tua play again. And I think he will. I do. I think he will. But I don't want to see him play again because when I watch him, all I'm going to be thinking about are the 4 concussions that he suffered, unfortunately. It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network with the unknown return of Tua Tagovailoa and us not knowing if he'll return or not. How do the Dolphins try to save this season? How do the Dolphins try to get a quarterback in there that is not on the roster? Is there one phone call that's already been made? Could they have a potential reunion with an ex-quarterback that used to play in Miami? We'll get into all that on the other side. We'll approach it from the football angle next. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. If you want to jump on in, do you want to see Tua Tagovailoa play football again after seeing him suffer another concussion last night on Thursday Night Football? Coming on back, it is the Zach Gelb Show. Football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you could win real money. Just pick more or less than at least 2 player stats. If your picks are right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. And Sleeper has a couple of huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounts and player projections for you every week of the season. So download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE, and your first deposit will be doubled with the credit up to $100. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use my promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, for a credit up to $100 match in your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be 18 years in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Infinity Sports Network.
Talking to Tua Tagovailoa, unfortunately, as he suffered a fourth NFL concussion last night. And obviously, we're thinking about Tua today. And on a lot of people's minds is, well, was that the last time we saw Tua Tagovailoa on a football field? Personally, I hope so. However, as I said to open up the show, when you leave the decision in the hands of the player, 9.9 times out of 10, it does feel like the player elects to play moving forward. I don't know when Tua is going to return, but if you ask me if he will return one day to the NFL, even though I don't want to see it, I think he will. And that's our poll question today. After suffering another concussion, do you want to see Tua Tagovailoa ever play again in the NFL? 85% say no, he should retire. 15% say yes, let him play. Early returns on that poll question at Zach Gelb at INF Sportsnet. We'll get back to the phones in just a second. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. Let's hear Dion Dawkins, obviously friend of show, college buddy of mine, star left tackle for the Buffalo Bills. This is the opposition side. Obviously, we've heard a lot from the Miami Dolphins, a lot from Mike McDaniel. Here is Dion Dawkins after the game last night reacting to the unfortunate Tua Tagovailoa injury.
It was the saddest thing. I promise you, it was the saddest thing. We're all just watching him run, and we're like, slide, bro, slide, bro, slide, bro, slide. And this game is so fast. It's a game of inches. You know, if he would have just slid just a little inch before, it's such a sad thing. My prayers, my heart goes out to Tua, his family, his parents, and I hope that he's going to recover well, because this is a violent game, and that shows it. And I know everybody in this locker room will be praying for him. You know, even though like we're enemies, but we're family. You know, like we're all football players, and we're in this brotherhood together, and we all tip our hats to Tua, and we all will get on a knee and pray for Tua and his family. But it's a sad deal.
And a real genuine and respectable answer from Dion Dawkins. Even though they're not teammates, we understand the brotherhood of the NFL, and Dion couldn't have said it any better. Definitely a sad day, and been a sad last 24 hours. And obviously, we're thinking about Tua Tagovailoa, unfortunately, having to go through this once again. I want to play you two more audio clips, because you'll have some people that will be like, "Oh, Gelb, you're soft. Oh, Gelb, you're overreacting to this today." And I already see some of the comments, and I'm just giving you my opinion. I don't think there's a tough guy take, or you're soft if you say he should retire. I'm just giving you how I genuinely react to something when I'm watching it. So Antonio Pierce, former NFL player, now head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. This is what he had to say on whether if Tua Tagovailoa should play or not again in the NFL.
I'll be honest, I'll just tell him to retire. It's not worth it. It's not worth to play the game. I haven't witnessed anything like I've seen that's happened to him 3 times. Scary. You can see right away the players' faces on the field. You can see the sense of urgency from everybody to get Tua help. I just think at some point, he's going to live longer and he's going to play football. Take care of your family.
And I think that's great advice. And Stu, I know Raiders players talk about the leadership that Antonio Pierce showed last year, but it's different when you're just showing leadership with non-serious things. Last year it was, okay, the Raiders got off to a terrible start. We know McDaniels wasn't the guy. And then you got to see from the Raiders what leadership can do in a locker room, and how when you have a guy that can motivate someone and goes about things the right way on the football field, how it can uplift a locker room. But that's totally different than when you have the football side of it. And I know Antonio Pierce isn't coaching the Dolphins, so maybe his answer is different. But for him to speak out on this today about another team's quarterback and him having a Super Bowl winning background as a player and now coaching in this league, I thought that was very respectable what Antonio Pierce did today, because it shows you that things are bigger than football. And the way that he put it was perfectly like, you're going to live longer than how long you're going to play. So basically be able to enjoy those years, because if you keep on playing, we've never seen, Antonio Pierce say so publicly, like obviously we've seen players suffer concussions, but over and over again like this on the big stage, and to see the way that his hands do the fencing mechanism as well, it's scary. And it's actually refreshing to hear a coach actually care about the well-being of a player, because there would be a lot of other coaches, right, that would be like, hey, I have a quarterback, we need Tua to get healthy, and just throw him back on the field as soon as he gets cleared. And it's refreshing, even though it's different times now. And you kind of heard it last night in the broadcast, right? Like Al Michaels, who is a legend, and we all know Al Michaels, right, has been around for a long, long time. Like, he was even potentially alluding to, yeah, you probably won't see him next week. Like, I don't think you're seeing Tua for a while. Like, the earliest I could potentially see is after that bye week, and that's in week 7, and that even seems a little bit too premature. So I commend your football coach, Stu, being honest and once again showing the type of leader he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could tell, like you kind of alluded to it, that this is just more than just a football decision, more than just anything to do with X's and O's and how good of a quarterback he is and all that. It's just like, it's this guy's livelihood. And it sucks. It's absolutely terrible. But yeah, I agree. Good words from Antonio Pierce there.
Here is Manti Te'o, longtime family friend of Tua Tagovailoa. He was on Good Morning Football. Manti Te'o obviously got emotional while talking about his friend in Tua Tagovailoa.
After he suffered the one against the Bengals, I wanted him to walk. That when I saw him have to be carted off the field, yeah, I wanted him to walk. Like, that was
Yep.
That was hard, bro. Yeah. Like, what people have to understand is this is just a game, and then there's life. And when you watch a young man that you've known since you was a little boy go out there, yeah, is it hard for me? Yeah, but I can't imagine how it is for Uncle Nalu and Auntie Diane to watch their son again go down.
And there you hear the emotional side from Manti, who knows Tua's family and knows Tua very well. And you hear that, and sometimes, right, we get caught up on what bets do we win, who wins fantasy football, and you forget about the person. There's a human element. And you heard Manti say even when he suffered the concussion up against Cincinnati, he wanted him to walk then. And now, unfortunately, we have to live through this again after people thought we were in the clear after 2023. And it's just a reminder, unfortunately, there's no avoiding really concussions in this sport. There just isn't. And when you start to have a history and you start to see many of them, you start to think about the person. I think a lot of people, even though it's Tua's decision, are coming from a good place today where it's like, dude, Tua, we love you. Like, you made a lot of money. You're a competitor. You're a warrior. It's just tough to keep on seeing this over and over again. And you start to think about someone after football, where a lot of times we forget about these great athletes once they're off a football field and they're not providing us that joy each and every Sunday. Or in this case, we have games on Thursday and Mondays and, all throughout the week now. 855-212-4227. Let's go to Marcin in Boise, Idaho. Next up on the Zach Gelb Show. Marcin, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing great. What do you got?
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for having me on the show. Anyway, earlier today I heard something about those weird-looking helmets that go on top of the helmet.
The Guardian
right?
caps, yeah.
Yeah, the Guardian cap. Thank you. That's what I'm talking about. And I heard it's a rule now that the players can wear it, right? And I know it looks kind of wonky or whatever, but why don't you start designing them with team logos on the side? You know what I'm saying? Like, make it so that the players might want to wear it.
Well, I don't know if the putting a team logo is going to impact a player wearing it or not. Here's what I'll just say, though, Marcin. I am not a doctor. I understand. I've all seen the Guardian caps like you, and like most of us, we kind of poke fun when we see them because they do look weird. But the question is, how effective is it? And this is Chris Nowinski, who is the founding CEO of Concussion. He's a neuroscientist, author, speaker, and he's really well-versed in this stuff. He was on Maggie and Perloff earlier today in the mornings, and he said this quote, "A Guardian cap is not going to fix this problem, especially the kind of hit he took. It could have been worse in theory with an extra pound or 14-ounce Guardian cap." So appreciate the phone call. It's a fair question. I don't know if it could have prevented what happened last night or not. I'm just giving you the neuroscientist background of it from someone that's a lot more intelligent than I am in Chris Nowinski compared to you just calling me up and saying, hey, why didn't you think he wasn't wearing the Guardian cap? Is there any way that they could have improved the situation? I don't know the answer to that. Regardless of what you do, and we've seen the NFL, even though sometimes it comes off as hypocritical, they've tried to make the game safer. The harsh reality is this a lethal game. And you could try to make everything as safe as possible, and you could have something occur last night, and quite frankly, it could happen even worse than what occurred last night. And we've seen it happen before with the man that was tackling in Damar Hamlin. And it's crazy that he's even still back on a football field. And there's no way to prevent concussions. Try to make the game safer. This game isn't safe. Now, NFL's not going anywhere. I get that. But I don't know what else you could do. And I'm not going to, second guess it. If Tua wore the Guardian cap last night, maybe around here, because I didn't even think the hit was that bad. And look what still happened. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. I'll get to two quarterbacks that could be on the Dolphins' radar with us not knowing when Tua is going to return, if he does at all, coming up later. The two quarterbacks that have been talked about the most, Tom Brady and Ryan Tannehill. We'll dissect those options coming up in a bit. Also, we'll tap into the Dolphins when we return. Armando Salguero does a great job. Outkick, the coverage senior NFL writer. He'll join us on the other side. Update time first. Here is El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Now, Zach, plenty of discussion about the future for Tua Tagovailoa and if retirement could be on the table after a third concussion in 2 years. This was Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce.
I'll be honest, I'll just tell him to retire. It's not worth it. It's not worth to play the game. I haven't witnessed anything like I've seen that's happened to him 3 times. Scary. You can see right away the players' faces on the field. You can see the sense of urgency from everybody to get Tua help. I just think at some point, he's going to live longer and he's going to play football. Take care of your family.
But despite the talk, head coach Mike McDaniel feels all this conversation counterproductive.
I totally get how that's where people want to go to. I just wish that people would for a second hear what I'm saying, that bringing up his future is not in the best interest of him.
Skylar Thompson would be the starter if Tua can't go. Chiefs wide receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown, shoulder surgery, injured, suffered in preseason, placed on IR. He'll miss a minimum of 4 games. And just how far would you go to get out of work? Twins releasing minor league catcher Derek Bender for telling players on the other team what pitchers were coming in a game that eliminated them from playoff contention. Reportedly told his teammates he wanted the season to be over. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Armando Salguero does a great job covering the NFL for Outkick, and he's done so for a long time, and he's kind enough to join us right now as we talk about Tua Tagovailoa, unfortunately suffering another concussion in the Bills' victory last night up against the Miami Dolphins. Armando, appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for it, and how are you?
I'm doing great, Zach. Every time someone says he's covered the NFL for a long time, that is code for this is the old guy coming on the show.
The well-respected veteran writer is how I would refer to you, Armando. So, you've seen the NFL change a lot throughout the years. We know how big of a topic of conversation players' safety and concussions have been. With Tua, it's different with quarterbacks than any other quarterbacks in the league with all the concussions that we've seen him suffer, unfortunately, in 2022. I know he got through last year, but to see what happened last night, just how did you process that one, unfortunately?
Yeah, dude, when you see both teams gather around a player and kneel and start to pray, there's a reason for that. They're aware of the history. They're aware of the seriousness. They obviously are seeing it right up in their face and up close. It's never good when you see a player go into the, kind of the planking concussion motion type of thing. And when it's a player who has had, like Tua has had, 2 previous documented concussions, possibly 3, because he got knocked out of a game against the Bills and by Matt Milano, and it wasn't even,
They said it was a back, which no one believes, right?
Correct. So this would be either his 3rd or his 4th since 2022. And we're at the point where the last one cost him the end of the 22 season and the playoffs. This one is already going to cost him at least the next game for the Dolphins and probably, almost definitely more games than that, if not a career decision on his part.
Yeah, and I watched what we saw last night, and it brings you back to all those times, unfortunately, we saw Tua suffer concussions in 2022. And you've done this long enough. I've done this as well. You know, if you leave it in the hands of the player, 99.9% of the time, they're going to keep on playing, and we'll see if Tua does that. But personally, I hope that he just goes home and he retires and we don't see him again because, man, it was scary what we had to see once again last night. And you think about the player.
Right. So you share the opinion of Raiders coach Antonio Pierce, who today at his press conference said Tua needs to retire. Interestingly, Mike McDaniel, the Dolphins coach, is saying, I'm not going to give an opinion on this because anything that I say is going to be pressure on Tua to go one way or the other. And I don't need him feeling that, particularly right now when he's trying to get over symptoms. So that's kind of the far away from the moment type of opinion and the in the moment type of opinion, obviously. The Tua family will be involved. They were involved in his decision to continue to play the last time. His mother told him to retire, and he still decided to continue to play. I would say to you, there's a different dynamic at play now. The last time he was on his rookie contract, he just signed a huge contract that basically sets his family up for life. It's generational wealth. And so, you know, if he were of the mind to, you know, stop playing, he's going to be fine, at least financially. And ultimately, that's a decision that's up to him. But it's a big decision when you've got a newborn and a wife that he married a year and a half ago.
Armando Salguero here with us. So I did not know that his mother last time wanted him to retire. I always thought he was going to return when the 2022 season happened, was he actually like really close to maybe listening to mom and actually retire and ending the career after the 2022 season?
Yeah, he has talked openly about the idea of it was a family discussion, and I listened to all sides, and he weighed it out, and then obviously it's his decision, right? And so he made the decision to come back and continue playing, with the caveat that he was going to do some things to avoid the very thing that happened last night. He took jujitsu lessons so that he would learn how to fall. He gained weight. This year he lost weight. It's been an ongoing process for him to try to figure out what is the best way to position himself to where last night doesn't happen. And yet here we are a day later in the same spot.
Yeah, and it was an ominous feel last night, especially on, with DeMar Hamlin being involved in the play, and we know his history as well. But it just once again shows you could try to protect players, right? Change the rules of the game, right? Tua could do all these things off the field. That wasn't even a bad hit last night. Like, that was the scary part to me, is we saw the fencing mechanism position pop back up once again with Tua in his hands, and it wasn't even that bad of a hit. So I don't even know where he goes from here, to be honest with you, Armando.
Yeah, the DeMar Hamlin, who obviously we've seen in a terrible situation on the field a couple of years ago as well. It really, the point of contact for DeMar Hamlin was his arm. That's what hit Tua's helmet. And of course, you see what happens in the aftermath, and there are people that are saying, well, he should have slid. Let's be honest. In the heat of the moment, in the heat of the quote unquote battle, some guys are just not going to do that. And some guys are not of the mind to do that. And obviously Tua was not either in position or of the mind.
And you know this too. If he did slide, and let's say he didn't get the first down, people would have been crushing him for sliding too early. So you can't win in that situation.
Yeah. It's funny that the reaction from the Dolphins has been, it's not about wins and losses. It's not about how this affects our season. It's not about can we salvage what we saw last night. It's about, we hope Tua is well and gets well. And I guess that's something that you applaud. But there will come a moment when fans who you mentioned can be somewhat vicious at times, because it is football. They will say, yeah, but what about winning some games, and who are you going to bring in next?
And when you get to that conversation, right away when I watched it last night and you see the aftermath of it, you think, okay, where can the Dolphins go? We know Stephen Ross' history with Tom Brady. We know Ryan Tannehill's history with the organization. If they go outside the organization, Tannehill probably the most likely there. Like, I don't think Brady's coming back.
I don't think the talk, were there be a talk with Brady, would be very convincing to Tom Brady. It would be something like, Tom, we've tampered with you twice already. We got destroyed for doing so by the NFL. But having said that, would you quit your $375 million job, at least temporarily?
And punt on NFL potential ownership, too.
Right. And put off your minority ownership of the Raiders and come and play behind an offensive line that's not very good, and on a team that even players last night were admitting the Bills are in our head, so not mentally tough. But can you do that for us, Tom? I don't know that would be all that convincing for Tom Brady.
How about Tannehill? He needs a job.
Yeah, he does. And I guess it's a possibility. I don't see him as much of a system fit, to be very frank with you. That is a quick read, be very accurate, pinpoint pass type of system. And Ryan is not exactly that, and much less at 36 or 37 years old, whatever he is. There is a quarterback in the NFL right now that if the Dolphins were of the mind to salvage the season, they could try and trade for him. And he's played in the McDaniel/Shanahan system, and he went to the Super Bowl in that system with McDaniel and Shanahan. And he's not a great answer. There are no great answers at this point, but his name is Jimmy Garoppolo.
And you know what? I have not thought of that yet. That would make a lot of sense. That's why you're the veteran NFL writer, Armando Salguero. You give us takes that most people don't even see coming.
Yeah, I pulled that one out of some nether region. I don't know where. But again, I don't see that as the prime directive. I don't see that as the number one option on the table. First of all, I don't even know that the Rams would make Jimmy Garoppolo available. He's just come off of suspension.
He's Armando Salguero. Does a great job covering the NFL for Outkick. Armando, thanks so much for giving us a few minutes today. We appreciate it.
Pleasure, Zach.
There he is, Armando Salguero, joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. And he's right. The Dolphins are going to give Tua time. They don't want to put pressure on him either way. But with what we do, eventually, and the fan take, they want to know who's going to be playing at quarterback. And Skyler, we've already seen enough of him. He's not going to have you win with the roster that we thought, could be ready to take that next step this year. I had the Dolphins just missing the playoffs, but I didn't think they'd be a bad team. I thought they'd be 9-8, 10-7, and just miss out because of how good the AFC is. But I don't think Brady's coming back. Tannehill, he says, is not a fit. He's available, though, and that's a big thing. He is a free agent right now. And you look at Jimmy G, he knows McDaniel very well, but can you find a way to get a deal done between the Rams with Garoppolo coming off a suspension right now? After this week, I think it's a 2-week suspension. And then, you get that deal done, and then at least there's some familiarity with the Mike McDaniel offense. So that was an interesting one. All right, we'll take a timeout. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. There's another conversation we need to get into with Tua Tagovailoa. We'll do that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. So we're talking to Tunga Vailoa. Obviously, unfortunately, suffered another concussion last night. Stu, I don't know where you are at on this. So let me ask you this, and I will preface once again that before the show started, in the first hour, for the majority of the first hour, I gave the take of if you leave it in the hands of the player, 9.9 times out of 10, 99.9% out of 100, the player is going to continue to play. Now, I don't think bare minimum Tua is going to return to play until after the bye week when they would even allow him to step foot on the field again, because I think the optics are different for Tua than everybody else, and they should be from the quarterback position because of how many concussions we've seen this guy unfortunately publicly suffer. But even with me saying I don't want him to play, but I think he will play again, I felt that way all of last night, all of this morning, all of this early afternoon. But then in the last 2 to 3 minutes of that chat with Armando Salguero, where he rehashed for us 2022 and the conversations that Tua had with his family. And Armando said that his mother wanted him to retire. Having that information pop back up and have us get reminded by it, I don't know about you, but I always felt like 2022, we talked about it a lot. We talked about it extensively. It was horrifying. The NFL, right? Everyone lied in that Bills game. It was like the idea that they sold it as a back injury only and there was no concussion. never made any sense. And how he was cleared to start that Thursday night football game never made any sense. And then at the end of the season, for him to suffer another concussion and then be wiped out of the playoffs, it was just so much. But still at the time with how young he was, even though seeing how many concussions he suffered that year and how scary it was, I don't think there was a large contingent of people who actually thought he was going to retire. The tone today is, even though Antonio Pierce gets in front of the podium and says, you should retire, I think that reflects the tone of most people today. Where Mike McDaniel's like, hey, and I respect what Mike McDaniel did. Not my decision. I'm not giving an opinion. I don't want to put any extra pressure on Tua because to me, Tua playing football again isn't what is important to Mike McDaniel today. But after hearing what Armando Salguero said to us and reminding us that his mother, and you know Tua, how close he is with his family, it's been well documented, how Tua's mother in 2022 said, you should retire. Now that this is an issue again and he suffered another concussion, it's like, I think about this from a human standpoint, and not that you always have to listen to your mom, but are you going to be able to have that conversation with your mom again? Where mom is probably going to say again, son, you should retire. And when you're sitting in a spot here, which is not the same spot as 2022 because you suffered another concussion, are you going to be able to tell your mom no again? And also, like, let me play the Manti Te'o audio one more time, Botcher, because Manti Te'o, right, family friend, very close to the Tua Tagovailoa family, and you already had the mom advising he'd retired in 2022, and this is what Tua, who's a part of the, this is what Manti Te'o, who's a part of the Tua inner circle, said on Good Morning Football earlier this AM.
After he suffered the one against the Bengals, I wanted him to walk. That when I saw him have to be carted off the field, yeah, I wanted him to walk. Like that was
Yep.
That was hard, bro. Yeah. Like what people have to understand is this is just a game, you know, and then there's life. And when you watch a young man that you've known since you was a little boy go out there, you know, yeah, is it hard for me? Yeah, but I can't imagine how it is for Uncle Nalu and Auntie Diane to watch their son again go down.
So after hearing that Manti Te'o audio, and then also hearing Armando Salguero say Tua's mother wanted him to retire in 2022, even though I started off this show saying, hey, I think he should retire, but I don't think he will, it really makes me reconsider what I said to start the show. Where when you hear the mother part of it, you hear the emotion in Manti Te'o's voice. You hear the emotion in Manti Te'o's voice and what he said. That's one thing, right? But then when you also factor it in knowing that his mom wanted him to retire in 2022 and how close Tua is with his family, I know he loves football. I know he's addicted to football. I know he's dedicated to the sport of football. No one's questioning that. But eventually, even though we look at these players all differently, right? Because they make millions and millions of dollars, and for a lot of people, right, they're heroes, right? And they are people that a lot of people look up to and they love because they bring them so much joy when they play on the field, and we all love football and we all want our teams to win. I get that. But there's still a human element. Like, we forget these are still human beings. So I understand that this is a fluid situation, right? And opinions on such an emotional topic can change. But Stu, when I heard Armando say that about his mom and when the mom wanted him to retire, like, that's not an easy conversation for a mom to have with their son. When mom knows how much his son, her son loves football, and to advise your son to retire and how emotional that conversation was, like, this time around, how is that conversation for the mom any different? How does her opinion change? It can't. And I'm starting to think now where it's one thing to say, yes, Tua should retire, but I'm starting to think that he will. Like, after hearing that part, what Armando said, and the emotion of Manti, too, it's like, if he plays again this year, I'll be really surprised. And if he plays ever again at this point, like you ask me right now, what's more likely? Does he play again or not? When you hear the mother part of it brought in, I would probably say no, that he doesn't play again. How does I don't know. Let me ask it to you this way, Stu. Two-part question. First part, when we started the show today, did you think that was the last we saw of not what you want to have happen, but did you think that was the last of what we saw of Tua Tagovailoa on a football field?
No. And after the interview, I still have that feeling only because it's just so much money and how much he loves the game. I hear what you're saying and the impact the mother can have and the family can have. But at the same time, I just think the contract he just signed, it's tough. I'm not saying it's a guarantee that he's going to be back, but I just have a feeling that he's gonna try to stick it out and keep playing, I think.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. From a legal standpoint in the contract, there's a reason I went to Temple University, right, and studied communications. So I rely on other people to give me that information. Because do you have a case to get all the money? Do you not? What was in the contract? What was the language? What's that website? It's SpotRack or Spotrack? How do you say it, Stu?
I say it's Spotrack.
Okay. So he tweeted this out today. While a full recovery is the only real focus here, in response to questions regarding Tua Tagovailoa's contract, the deal includes $167 million guaranteed for injury, $43 million of which has been paid in 2024. If he's medically cleared to return to football but opts to retire, he will forego the remaining $124 million guaranteed, barring a custom settlement. If he's medically forced into retirement, he has the right to collect the $124 million remaining. So I'm going to assume that he will eventually get cleared to return to play. Maybe I'm wrong, and you know what happens when you assume you make an ass out of you and me. So if he's medically cleared to return to football, but opts to retire, he will forego the remaining $124 million. Now, already $43 million has been paid to him. Like, I understand it's easy for me to say behind the microphone right now, oh, just pass on the $124 million. But he does have the $43 million, and also he has all the other money that he's made so far in his career. And, right, you can still broadcast, right? You can still do appearances, thing like that. Like, he doesn't need to work again in his life. He doesn't. But then there's also, I'm not stupid here, passing up on $124 million guaranteed does potentially complicate the decision. And it would be naive of me to sit here and say it's not about the money, but money does play a factor. And also, in this case, too, this is what Tua loves. And with Tua's age, this is not, oh, I've had a great run. I've played in the league for 10, 15 years. I've accomplished most of what I've accomplished. We're talking about someone who's 26 years old. I'm older than Tua Tagovailoa, right? We're talking about someone that is 26 years old. And it feels like he's older than that because we all loved him at Alabama, right? We all saw him play at Alabama. And we knew that injuries impacted his draft stock, right? And Joe Burrow merge. And then after a rough start in the NFL, he got things going. We know what happened in 2022. He bounced back last year. It's one of those things, though, where these are the three things that I think are to watch here. Number one, can you tell your mom no again? Number two, the money side of it. And then also, you're 26 years old. And you love football. And you think that you got so many more years that you can continue to play. But then in reality, you've also suffered 4 concussions and is playing for, let's say, 5 more seasons, and you suffer more concussions, worth it, where the rest of your life is totally damaged. And people are concerned about your safety now. If this happens again and you keep on playing, who knows how much more damage you'll continue to do in the future. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Let's go to Tom in Colorado next up on the Zach Gelb Show. Tom, good afternoon. How are you?
Hey, Zach, I'm good. Hey, I was listening to the radio this morning on another show, but Mike Florio was on, And he says if Tua is cleared by the doctors but decides to retire, all that guaranteed money he does not get. The only way he can get the guaranteed money off this new contract is if he's no longer eligible to play and he doesn't get cleared. So, yeah, he made whatever on his rookie deal and stuff, but
and already made $43 million, which has already been paid in 2024 on this deal.
Right, exactly. Which is hopefully he's got a good investment person that's going to make that money good. But as far as that, what was it, 190-something million guaranteed?
So it's 167 guaranteed for injury, 43 which has been paid according to Spot Rack. If he's medically cleared to return to football but opts to retire, he will forego the remaining $124 million guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted, because everybody, I've been listening all day to radio.
Sure.
Everybody's like, oh, he's got $200 million from the contract. I'm like, no, that's not really the case.
But also, Tom, and appreciate you listening and appreciate the phone call. I understand your point, and I'm not going to gloss over, and who knows what changes, what happens legally, all that stuff. I'm just reading the information that everyone else has. So if it is true that he's going to lose out on $124 million, it's obviously already a difficult decision. That complicates it even more. But, he has already, just from this deal, $43 million that has been paid in 2024. $43 million. And I know, right, athletes, they spend sometimes in a crazy fashion, and you talk about investing. You hand me $43 million, I could survive the rest of my life on that $43 million. I feel pretty confident saying that. Now, we've seen athletes blow through like $115 million contracts, whatever the Latrell Sprewell contract was. So that does happen, and I'm not going to gloss over that fact. But, yeah, there's $124 million on the line here. But that is part of the conversation, and I'm not going to say it's unimportant. But today, I think a lot of people are coming from a good place. I'm not saying Tom isn't. Where the place that you're coming from is, man, the quality of life is really important here. But let's also not be naive, and obviously we know, hey, sometimes people put themselves in harmful situations to go collect what is not only a little money, this is a king ransom amount of money as well. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. Stu, real quickly, yes or no, can you see Tom Brady coming out of retirement to join Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike McDaniel, Raheem Mostert, and Devon Achane and the Miami Dolphins?
I don't. I think that ship has sailed. I think he is going to remain as a broadcaster and then maybe eventual part owner of my football team.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That?
Who knows?
That's going to happen. It's weird how long it's taken to happen, but
trickle.
I feel like everyone believes that's something that's going to happen that hasn't happened yet. I don't think Brady's an option. I think Stephen Ross has probably already called him, right? The two Michigan men, how close they are, all that stuff. And we all know what happened with the tampering, and the Dolphins served the punitive action already, going back to when Brian Flores was their head coach with Tom Brady and trying to get him to Miami. I think the biggest reason, though, why Brady wouldn't go there, because I could see the appeal from afar, and I threw it out there instantly last night. Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, you put Tom Brady there, oh, boom, Super Bowl, right? The offensive line sucks. And the only time Tom Brady loses games is when he gets hit and when the offensive line can't protect him. That offensive line is bad. And there's an audio clip out there from the general manager, Chris Greer, who in this offseason was mocking the media, right? You guys worry more about the offensive line than we do. Like Chris Greer, he's been in the Dolphins organization for a long time. You don't recover from that comment with how this played out. So I think the lack of offensive line in Miami, Brady's not going there. Now, what about Ryan Tannehill? He's available. So that's why I start to think to myself, that could make sense. Now, Armando Salguero doesn't think he's a fit with what Mike McDaniel does, but at least that's a veteran quarterback, and he's a competent body. Like, hey, let's be real. You're trying to turn a crappy situation into an average situation just to give yourself a shot. Like, forget the Brady dream. It's a pipe dream. Tannehill's out there. I think Tannehill's actually not a bad option. And quite frankly, I talked to Channing Crowder, who before the season even started, he was suggesting, just get Tannehill in here, learn the playbook in case an injury does happen. That's an instant upgrade from what they have at the backup quarterback spot. So I would bring in Tannehill tomorrow, quite frankly.
I agree. I know it's probably not like a fit, like a glove type of situation. But again, it's a guy that's been a starter in the league for the past 5 years or so. I mean, I know he used to be a Dolphin. I don't know how much that matters since it's a different regime. And
so many years have also passed, too.
So but in terms of guys that are available and out there, I don't know. I can't even think of again, you take Brady out of the equation. I can't even think of another guy who's a free
Jimmy
agent.
G is not a bad suggestion, by the way, Armando.
It's not.
Now, you got to trade for him, but I feel like that could get done.
Yeah.
Now, also, Jimmy G's also an injury concern, too.
And he's sitting behind another old quarterback because I think the Rams signed him because it's like, okay, Stafford.
Injury pass.
You never know what's going to happen with that back. Yeah.
Let me throw out one more name here. What about Trey Lance? He's right now in Dallas. I think he's the third string quarterback because Cooper Rush, if I'm not mistaken, is still there.
It's not terrible.
I know that he had a huge statistical passing yard performance in the preseason. He also threw 5 interceptions or whatever the number was. But this is where you're starting to just go through the bottom of the barrel names, really. I'm going to go on a limb here. I don't think Zach Wilson's going to be the Miami Dolphins starting quarterback, all right? I don't think they're calling up the Broncos to get a trade done. Heck, quite frankly, it may not be a fit because he is a stationary quarterback and how bad this offensive line is. But if I was Joe Flacco today, I'm like, get me out of Indianapolis, get me to Miami, and let me go play with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So, you know what's another fun name here? I'll throw out one more. What about Mac Jones? Back up with the Jaguars right now. Trevor Lawrence, we know, is their guy in Jacksonville. Would Mike McDaniel maybe want to take a flyer on Mac Jones? Heck, Marash is probably advocating for Daniel Jones to go down to Miami. So he could see the Giants lose as many games as possible. The problem is, I think if you just keep Daniel Jones at quarterback, the Giants will lose as many games as possible. So I'm just throwing out the names there. And those are just some of the names that you think of. Is Andy Dalton going to tell the Panthers, hey, trade me to Miami? Who knows? So, all right. Take a timeout. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. When we come on back, 5 players under the most pressure this weekend in the NFL. We'll get to that next. Sports fans, listen up. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and bladder leaks can be a side effect. That's why Depend is teaming up with the Prostate Cancer Foundation to encourage screening, because health is a long game, and it's yours to win. Now, here's the cool part. Through November, Depend is contributing up to $300,000 to prostate cancer research by donating 40 cents for every purchase of Shields, Guards, and Real Fit products. Lloyd in Mississippi. Learn more at Depend.com.
You're in a 4.5-minute break. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Fun continues on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Infinity Sports Network, and it is the Zach Gelb Show. Obviously, most of the program today has been dominated by the Tua Tagovailoa news, with him suffering another concussion, unfortunately, last night. The big topic of conversation off of that is, will Tua play again, and do you want to see him play again? You could chime in at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, at INF Sports Net. After suffering another concussion, do you want to see Tua Tagovailoa ever play again in the NFL? 84% say no, he should retire. 16% say yes, let him play. You could always chime in, 855-212-4227. Let's shift gears for a little bit, and we'll get back into the whole Tua Tagovailoa situation. The first hour, 30 minutes of our program today have been spent talking about Tua Tagovailoa, and let's get to some other storylines for this upcoming week in the NFL. It's kind of crazy to me, this conversation about Russell Wilson. And earlier in the week, right, Mike Tomlin comes out and he talks about the intention of having Justin Fields to start this weekend with Russell Wilson being banged up. And it still is very unclear if Russ is going to be active or not with his return coming up to Denver. But when we get into this weekend, and I'll give you 5 players right now that are under the most amount of pressure for this weekend, I'm going to operate under the assumption that Justin Fields is going to play and is going to start this weekend for the Steelers as they go to Empower Field at Mile High to do battle with the Denver Broncos. And I believe that Justin Fields is under a tremendous amount of pressure this weekend because not only are the Steelers 1-0, but you have a great opportunity in front of you because the Broncos aren't a good team. I know Pat Surtain is the best corner in the league, but if you put up a good amount of points against the Broncos and you start the season off 2-0, if you are operating the organization the correct way, then the decision on who's starting week 3 is easy for the Steelers. It's Justin Fields. It's not Russell Wilson. So I want to see Justin Fields really run with this opportunity. So I think Justin Fields is a player under pressure this weekend. My next player, we're going to stick with the same position of quarterback, but we will go to Indianapolis. The Colts are traveling to legendary Lambeau Field. They're going up against the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love, obviously not expected to play. We played you the Matt LaFleur audio from yesterday where it was like, oh, we haven't officially ruled him out, blah, blah, blah. Like, Jordan Love's not playing in this game. You suffer an MCL injury. You already have paid him. He's the franchise quarterback. You're not going to pay him. The Colts last week, they lost a close one to the Texans. We know Anthony Richardson made that insane, like, falling away, 70-yard throw. That was the highlight reel play of week 1 and maybe the NFL season. Like, that's how sick that throw was. And the Packers, they have a solid defense. You know, you got Kenny Clark. You got Jair Alexander. Hafley now coming over from Boston College, leaving as a head coach to be their DC. This is a big spot for Anthony Richardson, where I don't know what Anthony Richardson is as a quarterback. Like, are you a social media quarterback or are you an actual franchise quarterback? And I don't mean that disrespectfully, because I think people will hear like, oh, are you a social media quarterback? Oh, Zach, you're trashing Anthony Richardson. No. What I'm saying by that, what I mean by that, is are you a quarterback that just makes a few highlight throws where we see you throw the football at a ridiculous length and we're like, oh, wow, you know, he made that great play, but it doesn't happen in great frequency? Because there's a lot of quarterbacks, like Carson Wentz has made a ton of highlight plays in the NFL. Carson Wentz is not a franchise quarterback in the NFL. You know, Paxton Lynch coming out of Memphis, right? I saw him play 2 full games when I was in college, and I wasn't impressed. But you see highlights, and you're like, oh, wow, this guy's going to be a stud. But for Anthony Richardson, if the Packers are actually starting Malik Willis, you can't lose that game. You just can't. You cannot lose that game. I do think Jamar Chase is under a tremendous amount of pressure. Stu, I meant to ask you this. Is that audio of Jamar Chase, is that from the other day when he's talking about the Kansas City Chiefs? That is from the other day.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like every time Jamar Chase goes up against the Kansas City Chiefs, and I get it, right? The Bengals have been that one team that have been a pain in the rear end for the Kansas City Chiefs because they had that 3-game winning streak. I feel like Jamar Chase always opens his mouth and says something very similar to this. This was Jamar Chase. He has a lot to say about the Kansas City Chiefs. Listen up to the Bengals star receiver.
We are the team to beat in the AFC, and we know it, and we got to act like it, and we got to play like it too. I'm sure they know we don't like them. They know they don't like us. So I mean, the energy already there. It's not really much we got to say now to this point. It's been 4 years now, so everyone gets it. We're not really worried about outsiders, man. We're not worried about none of that. All that noise y'all making stuff, we see it, we hear it, but we're not worried about it. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it's about the team and what we're doing on the field. The outside people are not on the field telling us what to do on the field, so I'll let them stay outside and have them make their own comment.
I say this as a Patriot fan, and I say this as someone that has great respect for this Bengals team and enjoys this Bengals team. They're starting to become obnoxious. Stop telling me you're the team to beat in the AFC. I get it. I respect the mentality, but you had a 3-game winning streak against Kansas City. The last time you guys met up in the AFC Championship game, you lost. And okay, let's get a clean slate. We enter this season. You just lost to my Patriots. They stink. Christian Gonzalez just locked down Jamar Chase. So for Jamar Chase to be walking into this game, and I get he's a top 5 receiver in the NFL, right? Top 5, top 10. He's great. He should get paid, all that stuff. But for him to be talking a big game this week, I don't care what your stat line is. I don't care what the game looks like. You know, if it's a blowout, if it's close, you better win the game. You can't, especially the last time your team opened their mouth, defensive side of the ball, Mike Hilton, oh, we're going to Burrowhead, and you lost the AFC Championship game. Until the Chiefs lose in the playoffs, until they aren't at the podium holding up the Lombardi, whether you like it or not is a different topic. But you're not the team to beat. That dude, 15, Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, you go Chris Jones, Steve Spagnuolo, Rashee Rice, now throw Xavier Worthy in the fold, Isaiah Pacheco. They're the team to beat. And guess what? If you beat them in the regular season, give you a nice round of applause. Good job. You backed up your talk. But then you have to beat them again. Because in order to get back to where you want to go, you're going to have to beat them in the postseason, which you did a few years ago. But Jamar Chase, after that pathetic performance against the Patriots, I appreciate it. I loved it. Patriots win. Want to know. Love it. But after that pathetic of a performance, you're talking this big game. You better win this game. You better win this game. The Bengals better beat the Chiefs. So I think Jamar Chase is under a lot of pressure. Kirk Cousins. I'm going to be at that game. Philadelphia Monday night. Kirk Cousins looked like a man that was coming off a terrible Achilles injury. And that mobility was not great for Kirk Cousins. And I get he's not the most mobile quarterback to begin with. But this schedule, you lose week 1 to the Steelers. You play the Eagles at their house in a raucous Lincoln Financial Field on Monday night. And then the next week you have the Kansas City Chiefs. Whew. Michael Penix Jr., I know that they just gave Kirk Cousins a 4-year deal for $180 million. You lose this game, and then you lose the next week. I'm not saying they're going to bench Kirk Cousins, but there will be calls to see Michael Penix Jr. get on the field, especially when you took him at the 8th overall pick. But for Kirk Cousins, you win this week, you buy yourself more time because you could afford to lose next week to Kansas City because at least you're a 1-2 and you got a big victory against an NFC opponent. And then in a number 1, so players under pressure this week, Justin Fields, Anthony Richardson, Jamar Chase, Kirk Cousins. I have a tie. And it's 2 players that are quarterbacks that are playing in the same game. It's Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. Right? I know, obviously, it's well documented what's going on off the field with Deshaun Watson. But Deshaun Watson on the field has been terrible with the Browns. And that is the biggest waste of a contract that I've ever seen, fully guaranteed. That dude is so far away from the dude that we saw on the football field in 2020. And that offensive line was horrible, but Deshaun Watson had a blank stare. He looked lost. He showed 0 ounce of leadership. And he's still telling everyone how great of a quarterback he could be. Deshaun's going up against the Jaguars. You got to go win this game this weekend. And for Trevor Lawrence, you got paid the big contract as well. First year, it was on Urban. The second year, you bounced back. Last year, you're off to a good start. Disaster down the stretch, you were hurt. One of these teams, barring a tie, going to start the year 0-2. Jaguars choked that game to the Dolphins last week the moment ATN fumbled the football. There's an enormous amount of pressure for both of the quarterbacks in this one, Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, the battle of Clemson Tigers. Both guys won national championships when they were at Clemson as a starting quarterback. Stu, those some players I gave that under pressure this week. You got any you want to add to the conversation?
Yeah, I'll give you 2. One is Aaron Rodgers. They lose to the 49ers. It's the 49ers. It happens. Yeah. But you're playing the Titans, a team that's not very good, and a quarterback that's not very good in Will Levis. The Jets need to put up points. The Jets need to have a very strong performance. And look, they have the Patriots next Thursday.
The 1-0 Patriots.
The 1-0 Patriots. And I'm not saying that the Patriots are going to beat them, but
no.
Division game, short week, you never know. So they got to get this win. There's no doubt. And then my other one is just...
Let me just comment real quickly on Aaron Rodgers. You're right. He is under pressure to win this week. I just don't see how they don't win this week. And that means they probably now lose because I just said that. But I look at the pressure on that game starting with Robert Saleh. Because I thought the offense in the limited time they were on the field wasn't great, wasn't good. It was fine. I could see the signs of an offense that's going to be good for the Jets. Defensively, that's the bread and butter for the Jets. That's the strength of this team. And with Christian McCaffrey out, Jordan Mason made you look like the worst defense in the league. The pressure to me is more so on the defense, in my opinion. All right, who's your next player, though?
And it's another similar thing where the team should win, and there shouldn't really be a doubt. But the Chargers and Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, they're playing the Panthers. Needs to be a guaranteed win almost.
Got to cover the spread.
Got to cover the spread. Got to put up some points. Got to put up some passing yards if you're Herbert, I think. So I do think they need to get off to that 2-0 start.
Yeah, I would be very surprised.
Before the schedule starts getting tougher for them.
Can you imagine the Panthers win that game this weekend?
No, I can't, but...
Especially with Derek Brown outdone for the season. Like, Marco, you usually try to find the positive in people and uplift people. You're always...
yeah, sunshine rainbows. That's me, yes.
A very friendly, happy-go-lucky guy here.
Yes,
when I think of that, I think of Marco Belletti.
Very much so.
Can you find any way, even though the Chargers are the Chargers, and I get it, but I at least know Harbaugh is going to have his 2 bookend tackles in Slater and Alt. He has a good quarterback, and his running backs are healthy right now, so they're going to run with Dobbins and Edwards. Mm-hmm. Can you see any way where the Panthers, who lost their best player in Derek Brown for the season, now are going to, even though they're home and it's a 1 o'clock game, Chargers, West Coast, going to Charlotte, North Carolina. Can you see any way that the Chargers lose this game?
No.
You can't make any case for the Carolina Panthers.
Look, I'm sorry. I'll be fair. The Panthers are a dumpster fire. That's a mess. That's an absolute mess. And it comes from the fact of trading all those picks and Bryce Young not being what they hoped or what they thought.
And Tepper being a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's it reeks from the top down, but it really, they put themselves behind the 8 ball, and Bryce Young is in a difficult spot, and he's also got to be more than what he is. That's a mess. Unfortunately, that's a mess that's going to take a few years. They thought they hit bottom. They got to get further than bottom to be able to get out from underneath this thing.
We'll take a time out. This is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will come on back. Stu's got some questions. I got some answers. Do a little onside, offside. Update time first. Here is the always positive Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Zach, third concussion in 2 years as everyone discussing and contemplating the future for Tua Tagovailoa. But despite the topic of what the Dolphins quarterback will do moving forward, and Coach Mike McDaniel is trying to focus on Tua's health.
I know the facts are that it's important that he gets healthy day by day. And in that, the best thing I can do is not try to assess what this even means from a football standpoint.
Now, no further word on what Tagovailoa and it being in concussion protocol. Dolphins working on bringing in another quarterback. Skylar Thompson would be the starter in Tua's absence. Dolphins don't play for 10 days when they're in Seattle next Sunday. Chiefs suffered a setback. Marquise Hollywood Brown needs surgery on his shoulder. He'll miss at least 4 games as he was placed on IR. Sean Higgins, the man charged with killing Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew. Blood alcohol level of 0.087. That is above the legal limit of 0.08 at the time of the accident. And the Twins released minor league catcher Derek Bender for tipping pitches to the other team in a game that eliminated them from playoff contention. Reportedly told his teammates he just wanted the season to be over. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X and like us on Facebook. Our handle is @INF Sportsnet on X and INF Sportsnet for Facebook.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
And this portion of the Zach Gelb Show is brought to you by Sleeper. Just download the Sleeper app today and use code BLOCK when signing up. Must be present in certain states. Visit sleeper.com for details. Sponsored by Blitz Studios. Stu, what do we got shaking today on Onside Offside?
All right, Zach, as we obviously have been discussing throughout the show, Tua Tagovailoa left last night's game against the Bills with yet another concussion. So Onsides, Offsides, you believe that this is the last time we have seen Tua play in the NFL?
So as we discussed, I started off the show saying if you leave it up to the player, I think the player usually elects to return and play. But then when you heard Armando Salguero join us and say the last time this happened in 2022, his mother suggested him to retire. Then you heard the emotion in Manti Te'o's voice, too, as a close family friend of Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah, I think it's going to be tough for him to return. I think it's going to be tough to look your family and friends in their eyes when they want you to retire and tell them, no, I'm going to not listen. I'm going to go back to the NFL because this is what I want to do. So you believe this is the last time that we've seen Tua play in the NFL? I will go more onsides than offside here, so onsides.
On NFL kickoff weekend, Alabama had the most former players on active rosters with 61. They were followed by Ohio State with 51, Georgia with 45, Notre Dame with 41, and Michigan with 40. So onsides, offsides, if you were a college player entering college with NFL aspirations, Alabama would be your number one choice.
So I say this as someone that has great respect for Kalen DeBoer, and I know him well. I think I am the biggest fan of Kalen DeBoer in the national media, or just kind of in the world that's did not play for Kalen DeBoer or isn't a family member of Kalen DeBoer. I love Kalen DeBoer. I've loved him for years. But Nick Saban not being at Alabama anymore questions what will the dominance of Alabama be moving forward? I do thoroughly believe that Kalen DeBoer will win a championship again at Alabama, but for years when Nick Saban was there, it's the clear-cut number one choice, even when you had other people at time look like they were usurping Alabama, like the short run that Clemson had. Obviously, Georgia as of late, even though Nick Saban beat Georgia in this past SEC title game. But now with Saban no longer being there, I don't think they're the clear choice. So if you're a college football player with NFL aspirations, Alabama's your number one choice. For now, I'm going to go offside.
Offside.
Marvin Harrison Jr.'s first NFL game didn't go to plan on Sunday against the Bills, as he had just one catch for 5 yards. Afterwards, quarterback Kyler Murray had this to say to reporters.
Honestly, man, I wouldn't say they were just taking them away. I think, I'm just, as a quarterback, obviously you're going through your reads. Sometimes the ball goes to them, but that's not, it's not my job. Obviously, I have a sense and a feel for guys when they don't get the ball and when they're, when they are getting the ball. But, I leave that up to Drew. Drew always, he tells me don't worry about that type of stuff. Just keep playing your game and, get the ball to where the ball's supposed to go.
Wait, do me a favor, Ryan. Play that for me one more time. The reason I want to hear that one more time, that seems like Kyler Murray is just throwing a lot of people under the bus. Play that one more time.
Honestly, man, I wouldn't say they were just taking them away. I think, I'm just, as a quarterback, obviously you're going through your reads. Sometimes the ball goes to them, but that's not, it's not my job. Obviously, I have a sense and a feel for guys when they don't get the ball and when they're, when they are getting the ball. But, I leave that up to Drew. Drew always, he tells me don't worry about that type of stuff. Just keep playing your game and, get the ball to where the ball's supposed to go.
Alrighty. I have my opinions. Ask me the question, though.
Yeah, so of course he was referring to Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator. Onsides, offsides, it is Kyler Murray's job to get the ball to Harrison Moore.
You're asking me, is it the quarterback's job?
That's right.
To throw the ball to the generational talent at wide receiver. That's what you're asking me?
That is what I'm asking, yes.
Yeah, on sides. It would be like, I don't know, if you have a producer of a radio program, right? Their job is to show up to work. And, right, I can't do the show if the producer doesn't show up to work. It's like one of those things. Talk show host needs producer. Producer needs talk show host. Just like in this case, quarterback needs wide receiver. Wide receiver needs quarterback. So you could throw Drew Petzing under the bus, and maybe you could call better plays. But, Kyler, Zach Gelb here, the Infinity Sports Network. Was it Drew's fault when Marvin Harrison was standing wide open, basically like 10 yards away from the end zone, and it was an easy touchdown? Was it Drew's fault, or was it your fault why you didn't even see Marvin Harrison Jr. wide open with no one even in the same zip code as him? Give me a break. Give me a freaking break. I almost just cursed there. Is it Kyler's job to get the ball to Harrison Moore? Yeah, on sides. Jeez, Kyler Murray. Jeez Louise.
So we do have some owner-on-owner crime in the NFL, as according to a recent ESPN report, Patriots owner Robert Kraft isn't happy that Cowboys owner Jerry Jones was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame before him back in 2017. Now,
and by the way, people in the chat are thinking I was taking a shot at Santa there. No, I was messing around with Botcher. Botcher was a little late to work today, let's just say.
Sigh.
Now, Botcher will be like Kyler Murray and will say it's not his fault, but actually, Botcher wasn't in the wrong here. Botcher got scheduled. No one told him he was scheduled to work out today. That was a Botcher shot, not Moist Mike. Moist Mike has just been out sick this week, but we can continue. Go ahead.
So anyways, Kraft reportedly told a friend about Jerry Jones, quote, he hasn't been to the NFC title game in 2 decades and he gets in? How does that work? End of quote. So onsides, offsides, Robert Kraft should have gotten elected to the Hall of Fame before Jerry Jones did.
Offside. I love Robert Kraft. Jerry Jones has been around longer. And yes, Robert Kraft's a better owner than Jerry Jones when you look at it from a championship standpoint. But you had to take care of Jerry Jones first before you put Robert Kraft in the Hall of Fame. Kraft should easily be in the Hall of Fame. But no, Kraft shouldn't have got in before Jerry Jones. So offside.
Offside.
Deion Sanders and his Colorado Buffaloes take on in-state rivals Colorado State tomorrow night. Colorado is a 7-point favorite in a rematch of last season's double overtime thriller where Colorado won 43-35. So onsides, offsides tomorrow is a must-win game for Colorado.
Yeah, onside. Because you beat Nebraska last year, and then you lost to them this year. So if you just barely beat Colorado State last year, and then you lose to them this year, you can't tell me that this program is moving in the right direction. So absolutely, this is a must-win for Colorado onsides.
And last one, with conference realignment in college football, we have two classic rivalries taking place tomorrow instead of their typical slot at the end of November. Number 9 Oregon takes on Oregon State in the Civil War, and Washington State takes on Washington in the Apple Cup, both at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific time. So onsides, offsides, it is a mistake to have both of these games going on in the same window.
I think Zach Gelb from 5 years ago would say yes. If you don't have 2 TVs, that's on you now. All right, I got 2 TVs. You know, you have to fire up an iPad or a computer. You could do that. So that's a you problem, not a me problem if you have a problem with it. So is it a mistake to have these games going on in the same window? No. Offside.
Offsides.
All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a timeout. When we come on back, we will talk more about Tua Tagovailoa, also get into the Buffalo Bills side of this as well, because everyone's glossing over the Bills last night because of what happened to Tua, understandably so, but let's give the Bills their credit when we return. Also, Ariel Epstein's going to stop by, Fanatics Betting Analyst. She will join us. We'll do some NFL picks with her. And we got a news brief still to come at 5:40 p.m. Eastern, 2:40 p.m. Pacific time. Whole lot to do. I can't speak today. What am I, drinking? A whole lot to do. It's the Zach Gelb Show with you. We'll come on back in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond. He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, rocking and rolling. Hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. JR comes your way at the top of the hour. JR is in the building today at 345 Hudson Street. I guess he's doing the show from here today. He usually does the show from Atlanta, Georgia, so it was good to see, obviously, the JR Sport Brief from the JR Sport Brief extravaganza. Alrighty. Let's get back into this Tua Tagovailoa situation. We'll spend a few minutes on it in this segment, and then we will end the segment and spend the rest of the segment talking about the Buffalo Bills, because I thought something was massive last night with the Buffalo Bills. So the first part about the Tua situation, obviously what has transpired is terrible. This was everyone's fear when we saw him suffer 3 concussions in 2022, even though the NFL will only acknowledge it's 2. They claim the one against the Bills in 2022 was a back injury. That was nonsense then. It's even more just nonsensical now. But he gets to the 2023 season healthy. Game 1, they have that great comeback. We all know what happened before the game with Tyreek Hill. And they're 1-0. They have this big game, this big test up against the Buffalo Bills. And I said it yesterday. If the Bills won that game last night, I don't think it changes the opinion drastically for me of the Buffalo Bills. I was more optimistic than most with the Bills, but we know what the Bills are, even with them having to retool things in the post-Stephon Diggs era. But that game last night was massive, absolutely massive for Miami. And if Tua didn't get concussed, everyone today is bashing Tua Tagovailoa with the early interceptions, the turnovers, how flat the offense was, and James Cook opened up a can of whoop-ass on that Miami Dolphins defense. But football goes right out the window, and caring about the result goes right out the window, where Miami got embarrassed in the game last night. And let's be real, I was literally about to press send on a video that I recorded in my apartment where I was talking about this is why the Dolphins were too premature, and they prematurely gave Tua Tagovailoa a contract extension. And I fought this battle all throughout the summer. Do a weekly hit on 560 WQAM. I said this 9,000 times. I said it 9,000 times on this show. And I said, I don't care if the Jaguars paid Trevor Lawrence. I don't care if the Lions paid Jared Goff. Like, whatever quarterback was getting paid. I said two things about Tua. One, I want to see him put it together for another full season where his performance on the field is just good. He hasn't been great yet in the NFL, but just good. And we know good quarterbacks get paid great money. And the other thing I said, which is an uncomfortable conversation to have because you can't predict injury, but I said in 2022, we saw what happened. In 2023, he got through that season, as we know, pretty much healthy. But he's one hit away or one concussion again for us being in the same boat that we were in 2022. And unfortunately, we are in that same boat now. Now, with that being said, I'm glad the Dolphins didn't listen to me. I'm glad Chris Greer and Stephen Ross and Mike McDaniel didn't listen to me because Tua now has money and has generational wealth. And I know you could get into, if he doesn't return, he doesn't get this money and all the legalities of the contract, the language of the contract, you could do that. But I'm glad Tua got paid because if he doesn't play another snap, at least there is something at a large value that he obtained when he is risking the future longevity of his health. But the moment the Buffalo Bills and the Dolphins last night saw Tua get concussed on a hit that was not dirty, on a hit that was not lethal, that was a routine NFL play. And I know people could sit here and go, Tua, he should have elected to slide before that. Well, he was going for a first down. And that's a bang-bang moment play. I'm not going to blame Tua for what happened last night. The reality is what happened last night is just something that's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. I know people are going to tell me, Tua should have worn the Guardian cap. Okay, you could say that. And then I could easily go to our friends Maggie and Perloff in the morning on the Infinity Sports Network who had on, the concussion expert, I guess is the way to say it, Chris Nowinski, the founding CEO of Concussion Legacy Foundation, the neuroscientist, author, speaker, and he's fighting to end CTE for concussion safety without compromise. So if you think there's a way for the NFL to be safer and, you could use the Guardian cap, and if he thought it was a tremendous mistake to not use it, I think that guy would be pretty honest and say it. Well, Perloff put this out that Chris said, quote, a Guardian cap is not going to fix this problem, especially the kind of hit he took. It could have been worse in theory with an extra pounds or 14-ounce Guardian cap, close quotes. So I thought the same thing last night. We've had callers say, where's the Guardian cap? Where's the Guardian cap? Where's the Guardian cap? You could think it. I'm not saying you're wrong to not think it, and it's one person's opinion, but Chris has dedicated, his life to this stuff now, and that's what he just said about the Guardian cap. So you look at what happened last night. The NFL could try to make the game safer. They could try to protect the quarterbacks all they want. You can't prevent the concussion. You can't. And last night, it wasn't even this, lethal-looking hit. It was a routine NFL play that if Tua didn't get hurt, you're not even blinking an eye at. Yeah, you're not. So that situation that occurred last night, it sucks. There's no other way around it. And now the decision is, what does Tua do moving forward? And we've talked about this at a great length today for the majority of the show. Armando Salguero was great with us from Outkick, who has been around this situation, reiterated back in 2022, 2023, when they're making this decision, do you return after what happened in 2022? Tua's mother didn't want him to play. We played you the Manti Te'o audio, who's close to the Tua Tagovailoa family. This is a Tua decision. And Mike McDaniel gets up there at the podium today, says, I'm not talking about Tua's future. I don't want to put any pressure on him. That's not what's important today. It's about Tua just today, just Tua's health. And talking about his future and when he's going to come back, that did not matter to Tua Tagovailoa. That doesn't matter to Mike McDaniel when talking about Tua Tagovailoa. But I get it. We're football fans. right? You want to know if your quarterback's going to come back. If Tua is going to come back, their bye week is week 6. He's not playing these next 3 games. It's different for every other, for Tua than every other quarterback because of the pass and the optics, and we've seen this all play out right in front of us on big national primetime spots. So he's not playing in the next. I would be shocked if he plays the next 3 weeks. He'll be out week 3, week 4, week 5. They had their bye week 6. Maybe he comes back in week 7. But personally, I've said this, I don't want to see him play again. And I saw Alberto in the YouTube chat made a great point. What does all this money mean if you're not able to one day enjoy it? And it's a great point. And if we see Tua play again, it's just going to be like when he came back last year. Yeah, he may get through a season, but unfortunately, he's in all likelihood going to get hurt again. And then you're going to be sitting on the edge of your seat, and you're going to be watching Tua play, and you're going to be watching Tua play in fear. Like, we're going to be fearful of what's going to happen to Tua because it's already a really scary situation what's happened before with Tua Tagovailoa. So I hope he doesn't play again. Earlier in the show, I thought he would play again. But after Armando reiterated to us, hey, his mom wanted him to retire in 2022, I thought that's pretty significant. And here's what I'll feel comfortable staying at the bare minimum, Stu. Because, Stu, there's a chance, I'll acknowledge there's a chance he plays again. Right? I've been 50-50 on it during this show. But you know that this is going to be a family decision. And this is going to be a really emotional family decision. He may play again next year. There's a chance. I would be surprised at this point if this decision is made as quick as possible, and if this is a swift and quick decision where Tua plays again this year. And what I mean by that is I don't think he's playing bare minimum the next 3 weeks. Seahawks, you got Tennessee, and you got the Patriots. Like, hey, they could win 2 out of 3. And you can say, oh, the season's saved, and then Tua comes back against the Colts. But I would be surprised if he's back the first 3 weeks. And eventually the schedule gets tougher and tougher, and the longer and longer he sits, the more and more losses they're probably going to pop up on the scoreboard, where eventually it's like, okay, the Dolphin season's really going nowhere. We could delay this season even more. So I look at this, Stu. If you tell me right now, does Tua play again in the NFL? I think it's a very difficult question to answer and one that I've even struggled with. But, and I've vacillated on this show from what we've heard and people that we've talked to. But if you tell me if we see Tua again this season, I'd be very surprised by that. I would lean, we don't see Tua again this season. How about yourself, Stu?
I would lean that way as well. I just think this is so serious and bad where it's a point where, yeah, it almost has to be the whole season at this point. And then you could talk about the future years after this, but I have a very hard time envisioning him coming back this year.
And I know Skylar Thompson played a nice playoff game against the Bills a few years ago. Guy stinks, all right, as a pro quarterback. So how many games are you going to win, even though you have big offensive names, if the quarterback stinks? And I could suggest bringing in Tannehill. Brady's not coming out of retirement for the Dolphins behind that offensive line. Did they trade for Jimmy G? But you're trying to make a bad situation. You're putting lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. So what happened with Joe Flacco in Cleveland last year is an anomaly. I don't think you're getting a Joe Flacco situation here with the Miami Dolphins, with whoever they bring in, and all of a sudden in a tough AFC, the Dolphins are going to make this big run.
Yeah, like you said, the tough AFC is the key. You have 2 teams in your division who have very high aspirations, plus the load of teams in the North. Yeah. It's just, the AFC is so stacked. There's maybe 3 bad teams in the AFC. There's a lot of teams that are contending for playoff spots, or at least think they can. So they're going to get so far behind here where it's just going to kind of be a lost season at that point, I feel like.
Yeah, I would think so as well. Now, I got to give credit to the Bills, and I'll get to the phone calls in just a second, 855-212-4227. The Bills going into this season, I was a believer that they were still going to win the division. I think, to be the champs, you got to beat the champs, and in the AFC East, the Bills have been the champs since 2020. And Josh Allen's still the best quarterback in the division in the year of 2024. I predicted Josh Allen was going to win the AFC East this year and have an MVP type of season. So if you separate the Tua conversation for a second, you want to know why I believe when you look at the Bills last night, that speaks in a big way what they could be. In week 1, Josh Allen put the team on his back and went all Superman. Last night, it will get lost because of the Tua injury. They were kicking the snot out of the Dolphins. And Josh Allen wasn't the best player on the field last night for the Buffalo Bills. It was James Cook. And the defense had 3 turnovers as well. Josh Allen last night was basically a game manager. You know, there was that one throw where he rolled out to the right and he completed a great dart down to the 1-yard line. That was a great play. But Josh Allen didn't need to be great last night, and they were still beating the snot out of the Dolphins. So I still believe the Bills are going to win the AFC East. And if you see a guy like Dalton Kincaid emerge, if you see Keon Coleman start to play well, Shakir is off to a solid start, and that defense gets a little continuity, you have some of those new names break out, they're still replacing Milano. Now, that's a team that the Bills, at bare minimum, the Bills showed me last night, they could still thrive without Stephon Diggs in the post-Stephon Diggs era. And that I thought was a big takeaway from the game, even though most of the takeaways are going to be about Tua. All right, let's bang out a few phone calls about Tua. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. We go to Indianapolis. Dean is next up on the Zach Gelb Show. Dean, good afternoon. What's shaking?
How you doing, bro?
Doing great.
Love your show. All I can say is if NFL and Miami want to be professional about this, take this decision out of his hand, put it in my IR, and maybe get another quarterback. You said his name earlier. It was Miami rookie quarterback. He's not playing nowhere right now, but I think that's the way they should go. Let him sit 8 months and decide on himself what he really should do, because all players want to come back and play, you know, so that's just how it is.
Yeah, I appreciate the phone call, Dean. I wasn't sure who he was talking about with the rookie quarterback, but it's a Tua decision. Like, I know we could say the NFL shouldn't let him play. The Dolphins should say they shouldn't let him play. Like, if Tua wants to play and he's cleared, there's not much that you could do. So this is a Tua and a Tua family decision as well. Let's go to Adrian in Maryland next up on the Zach Gelb Show. Yo, Adrian, what's happening, my man?
Yo, Zach, what's going on, buddy? How you doing today? Hey, got 2 things real quick. First thing, you said the freaking dude from the Cowboys, the backup. I'm a Cowboys fan. I forgot his name.
Trey Lance?
Trey Lance. Trey Lance was in that system. He knows the verbiage. So why not even make a flyer, give Dallas a 4th or 5th rounder just to get him, you know, and see how he does? That's that system. Second, I kind of not going back and forth with you, but I seen your comment last night on Twitter about this is why Miami shouldn't have paid him so early, and you're 100% correct. I would have paid him the fifth year option. If something like this happens, the choice is the NFL's at that point. You know, he's gotten paid. If he gets another concussion like this, most of the teams aren't going to touch him. So he gets his money, and he has a safety at the same time.
Yeah, and they picked up this is supposed to be his 5th option year, right? It is his 5th option year, and they rushed to extend him. And this is what happens with the NFL. When you think you have a good quarterback, you pay him great money because the quarterback is asking for it and everyone else is doing it. But just because everyone else is doing it doesn't make it right.
I agree with you 100%. He's got to see it. You got to see it from him that he can stay healthy for at least 2 years, and that hasn't happened yet. So They were so rushed to give him that deal, to give him the Trevor Lawrence deal and the golf deal, that they rushed to judgment. Give him that 1 year. If you concuss, you know, you can make the decision for the guy and look out for him.
Yeah, like I hate to you're not wrong in what you're saying, and thanks for the phone call, Adrian. Like that's also part of it too. You know, there was injury concerns with Tua, and they still paid him after one good season where he put it together for a full season. And there were still questions about Tua. And it's probably not the right conversation to have today, but that was a big reason why in this offseason, I just wanted to see him be able to get through the season healthy again. Now, I get it. For him personally, I'm happy they paid him. Even though I didn't think they should have gave it to him, I'm happy because if he doesn't play again, at least he got a lot of cash, which some of it he'll be able to keep. We'll do NFL picks next with Ariel Epstein. Football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less than at least 2 player stats. If your picks are right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money, and Sleeper has a couple huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. If you already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections for you every week of the season. So download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, and your first deposit will be doubled with a credit up to $100. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use my promo code. Come on, folks, go do it. The promo code, of course, is SCORE for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be 18 years in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We got some breaking news. Adam Schefter, the San Francisco 49ers have ruled out Christian McCaffrey for Sunday's game versus the Vikings due to his calf injury and Achilles tendonitis. Also more from Shefty. This is from Kyle Shanahan as well. He told reporters that his team is now considering putting Christian McCaffrey on IR. So that would knock him out for another 3 weeks as well. So we'll monitor that situation with Christian McCaffrey. But now let's get to some NFL picks.
It's time for NFL picks on the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, week 2. It can't go as poorly as it did. Can't go any worse for me as week 1 did. I don't know why. Every year, if you listen to my picks in week 1, just fade them. Because they lose every year. I was 0-3 last week in picks. I absolutely sucked. I was terrible. I was horrible. I was trash every single freaking year. Week 1, NFL season. I take all the odds boosts, right? All the promos that they offer you. Oh, I'm going to gamble. Loser, 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 loser. Someone that is not a loser, she's a winner, and she is the prop queen. That, of course, is my pal, Ariel Epstein from the Fanatics Sportsbook, who is kind enough to join us as well. Ariel, how are you?
Hey, it's good to see you. And listen, it can't get any worse, so there's only going up from here, 0-3.
Yeah, I would hope so. I could go 0-3 again and then be 0-6 on the season. All righty, I will start us off. The first game I will take, and feel free to pick whatever 3 games you want. If I pick a game that you like, you could go with it, or you could do your own picks, whatever you want. Jets and the Tennessee Titans. The Jets last week, they got absolutely embarrassed. They got blown out. I don't care if people tell me this is a sucker bet. Will Levis, he's just not a good pro quarterback. And I would hope that Aaron Rodgers, even though I kind of like this Tennessee defense with Simmons and L'Jarius Sneed, I would think that the Jets are going to be able to win this game by 4 points. So it seems too good to be true. I usually know what that means. I don't care. I will be fine losing this bet if I do lose it, but I like the Jets laying 3.5 points. Ariel, what do you got for your first pick?
I'm going to take the points with the Bengals at around 6, 5.5, 6. You're already seeing the line move in favor of the Bengals. Joe Burrow should not be an almost touchdown dog to the Chiefs. He's 3-1 straight up and against the spread against Kansas City. 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The Chiefs almost blew the game against the Ravens to start the season if it wasn't for Isaiah Likely, the Ravens tight end, having a massive foot. The Chiefs should not be laying 6 against a playoff contending, division contending team. And I mean division contending, like division winning contending in the AFC North. The Bengals. I know that they got embarrassed last week by New England, but Zach, the Bengals just ran the football against them the whole time. It was the perfect scheme. I took the points with the Pats last week, but this week, the Bengals get right. They're going to cover the 6 against Kansas City.
So Ariel takes the Bengals plus the 6 on the road in Arrowhead. Hey, by the way, the Patriots are 1-0. The Ravens are 0-1. I know you're a huge Baltimore Ravens fan. You blame that game.
How you start, it's how you finish.
Well, yes, the Patriots are going to stink. I know that. But, Ariel, you blame that game on Isaiah Likely and his big foot. How about Lamar Jackson actually gets the ball completed to Zay Flowers in the pass before, and you would be probably 1-0 right now.
Oh, absolutely. The Ravens looked pretty terrible aside for 2 drives offensively. I give the Ravens defense some credit in the red zone. It should have been much worse. They let the Chiefs get downfield very easily, but they stopped them. But again, the Ravens only played together with their ones on opening week. They didn't play in the preseason, which if you're going to play the Chiefs week 1, I don't necessarily agree. However, the Ravens have had a ton of injury problems in preseason games before with running backs, with Lamar Jackson. So I get it. The Ravens will get better once this offense gets on the same page with this new scheme with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
All righty, my next pick, I'm going to take the Chargers on the road. It scares me. West Coast team playing in an Eastern time zone, 1 p.m. Eastern time. This is a spite pick. I can't stand David Tepper. The dude just is an owner that always has his hands in everyone else's business. You hire football people. You got the head coach already sucking up to him in front of the podium. They lost their best player for the season in Derek Brown. Here's what I know. Jim Harbaugh is a professional, elite football coach in college and in the NFL. The Chargers offensive line looked wonderful last week with those bookend tackles. Dobbins and Edwards, you probably thought you were watching the Ravens, quite frankly, last week with how they
with
run
Greg
the football.
Roman as their OC.
Yeah. and a Harbaugh on the sideline.
And a Harbaugh.
And you got a pretty damn good quarterback in Justin Herbert. I think they asked Justin Herbert to do more this week, and the Chargers just emasculate the Carolina Panthers. Give me the Chargers laying the 5 points. What's your next pick, Ariel Epstein?
This is great for radio. I'm on the other side of you. Panthers plus 4.5. Ready for this? Okay, crazy trend. Thanks to my friend Joe, and I'm going to read it because I don't want to get it right. If you lost by 35 or more in week 1, and you're a dog of 4 or more in week 2, those teams are 50, 18, and 2 in the last 20 years. That's 74%. And the Chargers are traveling west to east. When I ask any of these football players, or any athlete for that matter, what is the worst road trip? It is west to east. They said east to west doesn't matter. West to east is really difficult. I'm going to take the points with the home dog, the Carolina Panthers, and just close my eyes and not watch it.
All righty. We will use your number from our folks and friends at Fanatics, where, of course, Ariel does a great job working for and providing a bunch of betting content. By the way, has Michael Rubin invited you to the white party? Are you going to be getting an invite to the white party in July?
No white party for me, but I was at the Fanatics Super Bowl party in Vegas, which was just as glamorous.
All righty. Ariel Epstein will make one more pick each. I will go to a Monday night football game. It's kind of lame that I'm taking 3 favorites this week, but I will be in Philadelphia, Falcons and the Eagles. I feel like anytime I lived in Philadelphia, which I lived there for 7 years, the Falcons would play the Eagles and the Eagles would always win. I know Kirk Cousins is now the quarterback, but also whenever I was in Philadelphia, the Vikings would come to Philadelphia and Kirk Cousins wouldn't win. So I like the Eagles in front of their home crowd to win this game by at least a touchdown. Give me the Eagles laying 6.5 points.
I'm going to lay points with the Arizona Cardinals at -1.5. Already saw the line flip on Sunday. This line opened with the Rams as the favorites at -1.5 and now flipped to the Cards at -1.5. Arizona could run the football with James Conner. Saw it last week. They struggled a bit. However, this is the much worse run defense because the Rams last year to running backs, they were 16th in yards per carry to the running back position. And you were able to see the Lions last week. David Montgomery rushed for 91 yards. The Rams lost their defensive lineman who's going to go to the Hall of Fame, Aaron Donald. So it's still a big hole to have to fix in that D-line for the Rams. I'm going to take a shot here on a very run-heavy team like the Cards, where you have a mobile quarterback in Kyler Murray. You have a good running back in James Conner. So -1.5 for the home team.
Is this the definition of a sucker bet? Because I was almost going to take the Rams plus the 1.5, and then I'm like, feels too good to be true, so that's why I passed on it in my picks.
I mean, listen, it's a 1.5 point spread, so a sucker bet is not so much. I always think sucker bets are when there's like a 3 or a 3.5. People, like the book, is begging you to take it. So, no, not a sucker bet, but when a line does flip against you, it is a little concerning when that happens so early in the week.
Here are the picks for this week. Ariel Epstein has the Bengals +6, the Panthers +4.5, and the Cardinals laying the 1.5. And I will rock and roll with the Jets -3.5, the Chargers -4.5, and the Eagles laying 6.5 points. Just one real quick question before we let you go, Ariel Epstein. The Jets, do you like that pick where I take them laying 3.5, or do you think Tennessee is the play plus the points?
I think that's probably your sucker bet more than if you were to have gone to the Rams. I know the Titans looked really bad. We can't assess teams week 2 the way that we do week 1. Week 1 is it was, you get, yes, Will Levis turned the ball over 3 times, but that, like, the Bears scored 3 defensive touchdowns. The Titans defense still has a chance at potentially being decent enough, clearly, because that was the only way that that was the only way the Bears scored.
So basically what you're telling me in all my picks, I'm an idiot. is what you're telling me.
No, not at all. We'll see what happens. I'll tell you that next week if you go 0-3 again.
You got it.
And please root for the Eagles because I have them in Survivor, so I need them to win.
Okay. I will rock and roll with your Survivor. I put 2 Survivor entries in, and I already lost one last
Eagles
week.
and Texans for me.
Okay. I forget who I'm going with this week, but last week I had the Bills and I had the Bengals. And
How do you can't
I'm out
forget.
on
You
one.
need to remind yourself. What are you going to do on Sunday?
No,
you just log in and you were like, oh, I'm out.
No, I already made a pick. I just forgot on who I actually picked. So if I look real quickly, let's see if I can remember, even when I look at all the matchups here. Who the heck did I take in Survivor this week? I did.
Zach.
Thank you. I took your Ravens. Ravens
Oh,
over the
you and
Raiders.
everyone else. That makes sense.
Oh, so you think that's going to lose now? The Ravens are going to be
No.
0-2.
I do think the Ravens are. I think the Ravens are going to win this week. They play very well at home, and they'll be able to run the football against the Raiders. This is the Derrick Henry week.
You got it. Good deal, Ariel. Thank you as always.
Thanks, Zach.
There you go. Ariel Epstein joining us on the Infinity Sports Network. Thank you, Stu. I appreciate that. I had no clue who the heck I took for Survivor. It's because I'm getting older. You know, I saw Ariel put out a tweet today that she's turning 30 coming up as well, and she was like, I'm not really looking to my 30s. You know, I turned 30 and now can't remember who the heck I picked for Survivor. I'm declining quickly,
It's rough.
Marco.
It's rough.
I am declining quickly, Marco.
It's rough.
I am like a quarterback, franchise quarterback that has to retire. Probably not a good joke to use today, but that's going to have to retire early because the body is just breaking down. Breaking
Internal
down in
clock
front
is
of
sped
us.
up on you.
Yeah.
Starting to see phantom pressure.
You know, I'm like Sam Darnold. Oh, I don't have mono, but I'm seeing ghosts.
That's not good.
Outside of when you play the Giants. All he saw was green grass. Where are you at on Daniel Jones, by the way?
Overly concerned. Look, I admit it. I said I was optimistic coming into the year, and I really thought that he would pick up where he left off a couple years ago, where he really proved he was a capable starter. I didn't think he was an elite, but I think he was capable and could lead this team to the playoffs like he did a couple of years ago. He saw pressure that wasn't there. His internal clock sped up. Those are things that are bad signs for quarterbacks, and usually once it happens, you don't come back from it.
I know probably evaluating the Giants' offensive line on national radio doesn't resonate with most of the country, but it seemed like the offensive line was fine.
They were okay. They weren't
I'm
as
not
good
saying
as
they're
I
good, but they're fine.
No. They should have been good, and they were a little less than what I expected. They were okay. There was more pressure on Jones than I expected in that game. However, he walked into a couple of sacks, and he felt pressure when it wasn't there. Again, those are bad signs. Those are signs of a quarterback who's been beaten up his whole career, and he now has internal clock. Every quarterback's got an internal clock, and you have to have a good one because you got to feel the pressure from the outside. You got to know when to deliver the football. These are all things that are important and vital. But when it speeds up and you feel the pressure that's not actually there, to me, it's impossible to turn the clock back. It's almost like the odometer in your car. You can't dial it back. Once you've put it on, that's it. And what I saw from him Sunday was a quarterback that's feeling pressure that doesn't exist because he's been hit too much. Think back to the David Carr days with the Texans when they drafted him number 1 overall. I'm hoping that it was week 1 rust, torn ACL 9 months ago. But logically, what I saw was the end. So it doesn't get better from that. It only gets worse.
So you're telling me if I put the car in reverse and start driving backwards, the miles don't go
No,
go
Ferris.
down?
It doesn't work like that. You can do that all you want. You could put the brick on the gas pedal, and you could put it in reverse.
When I was a kid, we had like a stationary bike in the house, and for some reason, my sister and we would pedal backwards, and the miles traveled would go backwards, would not go forward.
This was a really state-of-the-art, huh?
It was a very old stationary bike.
Yeah, no.
I think it was passed down throughout the years.
It doesn't work like that. Otherwise, people would be ripping everybody off with cars that we sell. That's why you can't.
My
you
dad,
can crack
for
it
all those
open
years-
and dial it back, but even those days are probably gone now with all the computerized.
Oh, when I was in high school, my dad would bitch about the mileage. The mileage.
I mean,
if that was true that you could just go in reverse, I'd be driving in reverse all the way.
That's what I'm saying. There's no way. Everybody would be a Bronx Tale. Everybody would go backwards to get to wherever they're going to go. It doesn't work like that. Don't try. And cracking over the speedometer, or the odometer, I should say, I would imagine, unless your car is 1979, I'm pretty sure you can't do that either.
Why is that Belletti guy just always backing out of his driveway and then just going down the block the wrong way?
One of the best. What was the purpose of that scenes of all time? But unless you were in New York at some point, you don't realize that that's so much easier to do if there's nobody on the street because it's so much of a pain in the ass to go all over the place to get a block over.
I saw some lady last week. There was 2 cops right in front of her. and she turned the wrong way
Mhm.
down a one-way street in New York, and thankfully it wasn't busy at that time.
Right.
And the cop's just sitting there like looking at her, and he's like,
But
"Hey,
didn't do
lady,
anything. Yeah.
you're going the wrong way."
Right. But didn't do
Other
anything.
way.
I mean, that's where if you get stuck in, like I get stuck in tunnel traffic a lot. So you wind up at a standstill, and there's one spot where you can kind of, you do the 360 and get out of there.
Yeah.
There's a cop there. I can't tell you how many times people will do it. The cop will just do the little brrr, just to let you know he's there.
Yeah,
But he lets you go. And then there's 7 other people that do it too, because he's almost looking at you like, look, I know you're not supposed to do this. You know you're not supposed to do this.
I'm not
But
giving you a ticket
I'm not
for you
chasing
being
you.
stupid. Yeah.
I don't have time for this. And everybody knows it, so they just wave as they do things they're not supposed to.
The other traffic story that I think you will enjoy. I'm going to Philly on Monday, but I'm going to drive early in the morning. I'll do the show in Philly there on Monday at our friend Sports Radio 94 WIP studios. But I got tickets last second to the Knicks-Sixers elimination game this past year.
Mhm.
So I didn't have time to go make plans in advance to do the show in Philly. So the game was at 8:30, tipped off. So I left here at 6, and we are 2 blocks from the Holland Tunnel.
Yeah.
I made it in enough time. I had 30 minutes to spare. But getting out of here took 30 minutes.
Easy.
Just to get to the Holland Tunnel, which is a tenth of a mile away.
Yeah. I was going to say, in 30 minutes, you actually got lucky. It's taken me 2 hours sometimes.
So,
And I'm not even joking. It's taken me 2 hours to get from here 3 blocks away.
I got a little impatient. And since I've driven before, I know that you could maybe sometimes just use the outside lane. There's 4 lanes. Use the outside lane, and then you could just cut everybody off and get honked and get called an a-hole, basically.
Right.
I didn't realize, though, that they put dividers up.
Mm-hmm.
So they cut off 2 of the lanes. So if you're not in the right 2 lanes, you can't get into the tunnel. So I had a cop yelling at me. So I go, I guess I'm going to have to then circle around, and I'm going to screw myself over here. And at the last second, I saw one of the dividers was down, and I just drove right over and right into the tunnel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was very, very, very proud of myself.
Gotta
It's
love New York.
You wear it on your chest, basically, with a badge of pride when you cut off people when driving in New York.
This city sucks.
Yeah. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Update time. Here he is. Capitan. This city sucks. Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Now, Zach, no Christian McCaffrey once again for the 49ers Sunday, ruled out with the calf injury. Niners reportedly considering putting him on an IR, which would mean at least 4 weeks on the shelf. Lopsided loss to secondaries. Everyone's still wondering what the future will hold for Tua Tagovailoa after suffering his 3rd concussion in the last 2 years. Head coach Mike McDaniel, though, refusing to even broach the subject of retirement.
It would be so wrong of me to even sniff that subject.
Now, Tua remains in concussion protocol. Too early to know what the next steps may be. Miami already in the process of bringing in another quarterback, but Skylar Thompson will be the starter while Tua is out.
The team and the organization are very confident in Skylar, and there was a reason he was our backup quarterback.
Now, also, Marquise Hollywood Brown didn't play week 1 for the Chiefs. Now needs surgery for his shoulder. The injury suffered in the preseason. He was placed on IR, means he's out at least 4 weeks. Sean Higgins, the man charged with killing Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew, blood alcohol level of 0.087. That is above the legal limit of 0.08 at the time of the accident. I'm Marco Belletti.
Hey sports fans, it's JR from the JR Sport Brief. Check us out 24/7 on your smart speaker. Just say, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. We're from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Billy in New York City says, Zach, what is the college football game that you're most intrigued by this weekend? Good question. You can submit a question by tweeting at INS Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. I'll answer the question in just a second. But Stu, I got to ask you something here first. So for the pick segment that we do each and every week, we bring on rotating guests. The guy that we were supposed to get on last week had to cancel because of travel plans. And then this week he had to cancel because of the Tua stuff. He has told me, and I think this is a big name in the radio world, he has told me he is in for week 3. Do you think we will actually believe that this person will actually show up next week after having to cancel the first week, telling us probably good to go the second week, but then because of who this person is and he needed to do a lot with the Tua Tagovailoa situation today, that's why he had to bail on us, and he profusely apologized for it.
I've long followed this person in their careers. I have a feeling it's going to be tough to get this person.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you think he could keep on being a little bit of a weasel?
Yes, a weasel. Pushing it, definitely.
Now, when I met this person 2 years ago, I was fired up to meet this person. When I introduced myself, though, I was shocked he knew who I was. Like, knew me and knew things about my career. So we will see if this person's going to show up next week. That's why I'm a little optimistic that it's going to happen. Also, we're going to have to get Stu Feiner on. Stu Feiner is a friend. I love Stu Feiner. I've watched a full day of football games at Stu Feiner's house. He's the most gracious host in America. The only fear about putting Stu Feiner on is how many times we're going to have to dump him. Like, Botcher, what would you set the over-under on that? You know, in Stu Feiner a bit.
3.5.
Yeah, but I'm going to ask Stu. We'll definitely get Stu on. All right, college football games that intrigue me. Arizona and Kansas State tonight. Fafita and McMillan are just a tremendous 1-2 punch. But Kansas State, man, Kleiman's unbelievable. They were my pick to win the Big 12. And I don't think he's appreciated enough. So this is a good spot for Kleiman tonight, even though everyone's going to talk about the sexiness of the offense of Arizona. And Arizona, you lose Fish, and a lot of those players stay. I think that's a tremendous game tonight. Other games that stand out to me, Shane Beamer, big win last week. If you go get a win up against LSU in front of your home crowd, oh man, you go from the hot seat to that seat being frigid coal. I would like to see what Boston College does. Big-time Missouri team. Boston College had a lot of praise for how they started the season off 2-0. I'll be curious to see how tight that game is going to be. I'm fascinated. Notre Dame should win, but Notre Dame should have beat NIU. What type of Notre Dame do we see going up against Purdue? But to answer this question for Billy from New York City, which game intrigues me the most? It's Alabama and Wisconsin. Here's why. I think Alabama gets a national championship game this year. They're my pick to get to the national championship but lose to Georgia. This is a spread that's Alabama minus 16.5. Big number. Wisconsin now in year 2 of Luke Fickell. How much of a step have they taken? And there's some unknown about Alabama nationally because Saban's no longer there with DeBoer, even though we all know how good of a coach DeBoer is. With that being said, I think this is just a good test for both teams. I think Alabama's going to win the game, but I'm fascinated by is this going to be by Alabama by little or if they're going to blow out Wisconsin. I'm fascinated to see how this one goes down in a great environment at Camp Randall. Alrighty, this was brought to my attention. So I was looking at Marco Belletti during the break like he had 10,000 heads because he said, there's an advertisement that runs and you sound like you're Brian Kelly. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, you sound like you're from the South. So I had no clue what he was talking about. It's not necessarily an advertisement. It's a liner coming back from breaks that I guess air all throughout the weekend. And Marco goes, the way you say sports fans is bugging the crap out of me. And I'm like, what? I probably just read it like, hey, sports fans, it's Zach Gelb. Listen to the Infinity Sports Network, the Zach Gelb Show, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Something like that, right? So I listened to it during the break. Ryan Botcher found it. And man, this is my Brian Kelly moment with the LSU family. Listen up. Hey, sports fans, Zach Gelb here on the Infinity Sports Network. Check us out 24/7 on your local affiliate or on the Odyssey app. Download it today. Is Marco being a little overly critical there? Hey, sports fans. Play that, just loop it. Hey, sports fans. Hey, sports fans. Hey, sports fans. Yeah, I was probably doing 100 of those and just quickly read that. It's not great. I don't think I sound necessarily like Brian Kelly there. I'm not making up an accent like LSU and my family. family, family, family. But I did hold out the A there on sports fans, right? Botcher, your thoughts on that?
Very cowboy. But it also feels like they shrunk it in time. So they made it sound
condensed
faster.
it. So I probably gave him like 14 seconds, so you need a 10-second read.
So it sounds more Western.
Hey, sports fans! Hey, sports fans! Yeah, that's it's indefensible.
They probably split up the hay and left the sports fans.
Yeah, who does? All righty. Botcher, great job as always, even though you were late today by an hour. Not your fault, though. And Stuart Kovacs, thank you as well. Marco Belletti on the updates. Big thanks to our guests, Armando Salguero, and also Ariel Epstein. And a big thanks to each and every one of you for calling, listening, and tweeting. Good job on the phones today. Very good job on the phones today. 855-212-4227. Good to hear from you guys today. All righty. I am on the air tomorrow, sports fans, from 9 to 9:30 a.m. Eastern time on WFAN in New York, the greatest 30 minutes of radio. And then on Sunday, I will be back on the Infinity Sports Network from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern for Sunday morning football. So sports fans, you got 2 ways and 2 times to listen to me before we get back and we reconvene on Monday, where I'll be live in Philadelphia. Sports fans, as we'll get you set for the Eagles and the Falcons, and we'll recap all the mayhem that goes on in week 2 of the National Football League. Have a great weekend. I'm Zach Gelb. Talk to you on Monday or Saturday or Sunday, whenever you listen to me. We out. Bye-bye. Peace. Sports fans. Hey, sports fans.
You're in a 5-minute break.